Okay, so part two, what we're going to talk about now is innovation versus the traditional model of delivering support and why we would use the person-centered planning approach. So if we look at traditional support, traditional approaches, the traditional approach was to design a plan that the individual had to then adapt to. And there wasn't much shaping, there wasn't much thinking about individual needs. It was just, there is a plan, how are we going to slot this person into that plan? So the traditional model actually focuses really on the deficits and difficulties of the individual and sees the individual as something that has to be fixed or someone that has to be put right. And the establishing of goals would therefore be very difficult. And it doesn't also allow for risk taking. And in our lives, all of us take risks all the time. But we think about those risks, we work out whether we want to take the risk, we calculate the risk, and then we can take the risk. And hopefully our parents have allowed us growing up to take risks. But these people have very often been stopped from taking risks. Why? Because they're seen as not capable of doing things. And they have to be protected. They have to be kept safe. And so risk-taking has been really difficult for them, but it's part of life. So we don't see them as people that have got to be fixed and put right. We see them as people that we need to be able to enable, to develop, and allow them to grow. To personalise means to adequately design something that automatically reflects a person's needs and preferences. So if we think about shoe sizes, we all have different shoe sizes, don't we? Everybody in this room will have different shoe sizes. Now, what we don't do is produce one great big pair of shoes and say everybody can wear these shoes because everybody's foot will fit inside it. Because it would be very difficult to walk if you were a size 5 and we put you in a size 9. Your foot might go in, but you'd struggle to keep it on your foot, you'd struggle to get about. So we can't have one size fits all. We have to be individual in what we're doing and tailor things to the individual in their way, in their size, if you like, in their shape, so that it actually reflects their needs and their preferences. So the innovation of person-centered planning is about a combination of 4 different aspects. Personalisation, so that it's tailored to the individual. Involvement, so that the individual is very much involved in the process. Flexibility, so we don't get stuck in one train track. As the individual changes through life and develops and grows, their needs may change. And as supporters, and I'm not using the word professional, I'm using the word supporter, then we have to be flexible enough to go with that. And continuity. So if we're going to be working with a plan and working with an individual through life, then we have to make sure that there is continuity. Things don't just get put on a shelf and left there and forgotten, because we're still trying to develop this individual. So there has to be a handover at different times so that we keep that plan alive and continuous. So the person, as I keep stressing, is always at the centre of the plan, and that's together with their capacities and their individual needs. Family members, friends, and other people close to them are part of the decision-making process. The plan isn't set in stone. It must be able to adapt and to be adapted. And the plan needs to stay alive. It must continuously change and adapt through a shared commitment and a wide, holistic approach. According to a series of research studies and various studies have been done, PCP has led to positive changes for people. It's had a positive impact on people's lives, especially in the fields of community involvement, relationships and choices. If we look at Robertson's research method, Robertson selected one inner London borough, one large rural area, and 2 metropolitan boroughs. He chose diverse cultural and economic groups and people with a wide range of intellectual disabilities. They were all aged between 16 and 86 years of age, so a big spread across age groups. The research questions were, what impact does the introduction of PCP have? What costs are associated with PCP? What organisational factors facilitate or impede the effectiveness of PCP? Well, in terms of social networks, we saw there was an increase of 52% from the PCP impact from the process. Family contacts increased by 140%, staggering figures here. Relationships with friends increased by 40%. Involvement in community activities by 30%. And scheduled daily activities increased by 33%. The greatest and best of these probably is that people's ability to make choices and opportunities to make choices about their lives increased a whacking 180%. So the figures can speak for themselves. This is a positive process. It's a positive way to develop and enhance people's opportunities and therefore their lives. If you look at one case study here, a young man called Luke who attended a day centre. He was unmotivated and he slept a lot. After the PCP planning process, Luke regularly now plays snooker at a local club because he chose to. People might well say, oh yes, it's all very well, but what about the cost? And everybody in this day and age is always very aware of cost. Okay, well, it's actually pretty well cost neutral, as prospective costs will shrink over time as a person gets more and more involved and capable and moving forward with their lives. So there's only likely to be around a 2.2% increase in immediate costs. It's not hugely cost heavy. So in terms of pro factors, we have five pro factors, easy for me to say, in terms of implementing PCP. So we have facilitators that are committed to the process. We have facilitators that plan as part of their formal job role. So it may be that you create specific jobs that are PCP facilitators, or it may be that somebody does it alongside another day-to-day job. They have an involvement, they involve the individual in the person-centered planning process. Right from the start, the person is involved. And then there's a person-centered team around that individual. It's important also that managers are involved in the planning. If you're going to support somebody in making decisions about their lives, then you need some common sense and reality in that as well. We all have constraints in our lives. I might love to drive a very expensive sports car, but if I haven't got the money to do that, I have to discount it and say, maybe one day, but not right now. Managers will tend to know what funds are available, where to access funds, where to access resources for people in their lives. So that, if you like, they can be enablers and advisors. So it's really important to have managers involved so that people don't make totally unrealistic decisions. That would just disappoint people. So there are several implications, both for managers and professionals. The first needs to choose teams and staff that consider and apply PCP. Choose the right staff, find the right people, find people that have the right attitudes and values to support the PCP process. The second must decide how to contribute to its implementation and its development. So each manager, if you like, in an organisation should be thinking about, okay, how am I going to bed PCP in as a culture within my organisation, as a process that everybody knows and everybody works to? How do we manage to change and shift our culture to embrace this process? So in terms of some conclusions, overall person-centred planning is based on evidence of its effectiveness. We have the evidence of its effectiveness, and we need to spread that across professional groups so that more people are picking up on it and giving this opportunity to people with disabilities. There's a need for development, and of course, always things develop, always things change. There's also a huge need for growth and potential for growth across organisations within the EU, within different countries, to actually bring this process into being and think of how we support people in a totally different way.